Come on, dog. Throw this list in the fucking trash.
I'm so curious, is all of his audience delusional and like has no idea about like the misinformation he spread, or are they just like, once again, do they just have a preconceived notion about Hasan and the world, and therefore when they see anything that contradicts it, they're like unwilling to take it in, honestly? I want to talk about Hasan Piker. That's what I want to talk about right now. So Hasan, okay, is someone I've talked about a lot on my channel. You know, you guys love him, I think. We're big fans here. And I think one of the biggest criticisms people have made of him, particularly Willie Mack, is his willingness to spread misinformation in regards to ongoing conflicts when it fits his narrative, and is also his willingness to ignore contradictory information that doesn't align with his worldview, right? And that's part of what really f***ed him in this debate, where he was like super confident, ready to debate a commentary channel, and then he got blown out because Willie had done like 5% more research than Hasan had on everything he talks about. Well, recently Hasan apparently received some kind of bias rating, and I'm curious to see what that is, like a media bias rating. And a channel called Actual Justice Warrior made a video about it, so I'm excited to watch whatever's going on there, to be honest. I'm quite hype, some would say. Okay, Shank's nephew cries about bias rating. This is the thing they call him, Shank's nephew. Greetings and salutations, he says. Okay, thank you for salutationing me or whatever.
Patients, loyal viewers of this channel, my name is Sean, and I often find myself asking myself why we love fail videos so much. Is it because we are all secretly deep down cynical animals that just love to delight in the suffering of others? Or, and this is my actual hypothesis, is it because there is something hilarious, inherently so, about someone's self-perception of themselves getting ripped away from them by the cold, brutal reality of the world? And
people do definitely enjoy watching the downfall and suffering of others. I don't know that it's necessarily as if they're like masturbating to it mentally, but people do enjoy that. I mean, I know that better than anyone else. I talk about it all the time, you know? Like people do definitely enjoy that kind of to an extent. Now there's like different kinds of it. There's like morbid fascination where like, oh, it's interesting to watch this happen. And then there's also like, I've noticed this kind of comment that I'll get on some of my videos from people, which is that they'll be like, man, this video made me realize that no matter how bad I am, I can never be as bad as this guy, right? Just because I lost my job and I'm a loser, at least I'll never be as bad as Daniel Larson, right? I'll see a comment like that. And on one hand, I mean, they're technically right by comparing those things. Like, it's very hard to be as bad as Daniel Larson. But I've noticed there is a certain amount of people that get like catharsis and comfort out of watching other people's downfalls because they can compare it to their own lives and be like, oh, well, I'm not as bad. I'm not as bad as that guy, right? Like, that's a genuine thing that I do see some people say. So I think there is an aspect of it that is like, you know, it's not me. And there are also like, you know, sycophants who are like, ha, he's going to die. Yes. Make him suffer, you know.
honestly, that's what I think it is.
Schadenfreude
and that's
is real,
why
yeah.
many of people have gotten such enjoyment of watching Cenk's nephew see where he ranks in terms of a media bias chart, because he's absolutely livid over it, even though this should be obvious. But
I think they just don't like him and think he's I don't think that it's that complicated, to be honest.
you is in fact Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks' nephew, and there should be no additional clarification needed, but maybe it would help you guys to understand that he actually does his own Twitch stream where he presents himself as this amazing fight against the machine type of person. So when he hears on his own channel from his audience that he is ranked below Joe Rogan in terms of trustworthiness, somebody that he goes after routinely, that is obviously going to pique his interest.
I would say that's probably accurate just from my general read of both of their content. And it's not because Joe Rogan's inherently truthful or like hasn't spread misinformation, because he definitely has. Maybe even more than the average podcaster, just because of the topics he talks about and the people he has on. But I think Joe Rogan's willingness to interpret like facts on like an even basis is probably better than Hasan, and he's also probably less politically brain rotted, because it's not like the only thing he talks about is politics, right? It's not even like oh, well, Joe Rogan's right wing, so he's based, versus Hasan is left wing, so he's not based. It's not that. It's more just, I don't think Joe Rogan generally, when I've seen him take information in, is trying his best to figure out how he can fit that into his worldview. I think he's more curious and more willing to listen to other perspectives than Hasan is. I think he also demonizes the other side, quote unquote, less. Not that Joe Rogan is even necessarily like, I don't see him as like a conservative in like the traditional sense of the word, which is like, you know, family, tradition, God, stuff like that. Like I don't think that that's stuff that necessarily comes to the priority for him. But he does have like, there's a conservative leaning aspect of his show with the kind of guests he has on and the kind of things he talks about, which is like in modern day, the conservative position, broadly centristic conservative position, seems to be like being pro freedom of speech, pro Second Amendment, stuff like that. That's kind of seen as like conservative stuff now. But I see him as a more just like a normal 50-year-old guy, to be honest. I don't think he's super hard on conservatism. I think he aligns with conservatives on a few things that make him like identify with them more and they like him a lot. But I don't see him as someone who's like trying to take everything in the world to like fit a certain worldview. You know what I mean? And part of the reason I give him that benefit is like when he has like conservative guests on who are like, genuine conservative. Well, is genuine the word I want to use? I don't know. Who are conservative people and who are on paper conservative pundits, right? Like Steven Crowder or Matt Walsh. With both of those people, he's pushed back on their a lot, right? When he's had them on. Like, for example, with Matt Walsh, when Matt Walsh said that he's like, there are literally millions of children on hormones, which like children on hormones is not a good thing. I don't think that's a shocking take for my chat. But the idea that there are millions of children on hormones in the United States right now is like, it's just a denial of the facts, right? Like, it's just not true. And Joe is willing to push back on Matt Walsh in that scenario. And like Rogan's willingness to like cross with some people, because like if you listen to certain people, they would have you think that like Rogan is like nothing but a completely useful for whatever talking point Matt Walsh wants, right? But it's really not the case. Like Rogan, when he gets information that is clearly not true, or is like information that is like fit to conform to a certain worldview and like hysteria created by people like Matt Walsh, he's willing to push back on them, right? So yeah, that's what I like about him. He endorses Donald Trump. I don't think he did. I think he endorsed Bernie Sanders 4 years ago. And I think now, or maybe 8 years ago. And right now, I think he endorsed RFK, and then RFK dropped out. I don't think he endorses Donald Trump at all.
That is obviously going to bother him. But when he pulls up this chart, he is aghast. And honestly, it's hilarious.
Apparently, Joe Rogan is more reliable than you. What is this? Hold on. The new media bias thing came out. Is this for real? Wait, what? There's no way, dude. There is no f***ing way.
Now, to quote the great Anna...
Who created this media bias chart? Media bias chart. Hasan Piker. Here is this chart. So Hasan is placed over here. It's kind of low res, you can see. Hasan is placed over here. Let's see here. So as far as contains misleading info, he's placed relatively low on that, but like, not like he never includes misleading info. And he's placed as far as political position at the end of hyperpartisan left, bordering on most extreme. I don't know how they conducted this. I don't know all of these sources and how you would rank them. I would probably rank him slightly above this line or even past it a little bit. Maybe that's because I've mostly seen the info he's gotten wrong versus like watching his entire streams. Yeah, because I've seen the Willie Mack videos of like all the he's gotten wrong. So maybe that's part of my bias there. But I'd probably rank him up here. Now, in fairness, they did rank Rogan above this line, and even like, let me see here. Oh, it was this news value and reliability, less and more. Okay, so they put Hasan on the contains misleading info section here. I interpreted this graph slightly wrong at first. They put him here on contains misleading info, and they put Rogan over the line into the category of selective, incomplete, unfair, persuasion, propaganda, or other issues. So they did actually rank Rogan as slightly less reliable in terms of the facts, but they also ranked him slightly right of center, which I think is probably quite true in terms of his political opinions. Slightly right of center, that seems relatively accurate, practically speaking.
Kasparian, my literal bestie, it's real.
It's real, guys. It's real.
Contains misleading info.
So first of all,
I feel like people are reading the chart wrong. Even Hasan seemingly read it wrong. If he said that he's worse than Rogan, because he's ranked slightly better than Rogan in terms of information. Is he not?
I think it is important for everybody out there in the audience to understand that contains misleading info actually is soft pedaling it when you don't realize the context in which that was framed. I actually have the chart from August 2024 from this organization that is ranking media bias, and the categories are as follows: thorough fact reporting or fact dense analysis. That would be
That's where I would be.
at the top. mix of fact reporting and analysis, or simple fact reporting. And then it says analysis or wide variation of reliability, opinion or wide variation of reliability. And then there is selective,
Bro got rated better. He didn't really, though.
incomplete, unfair persuasion, propaganda, or other issues. And then below that,
Oh, wait, he did get ranked worse. I'm totally... I read this graph wrong. He was ranked slightly worse, okay. Because Rogan was ranked under incomplete, unfair persuasion, propaganda, and Hasan was ranked with contains misleading info. Okay, I was wrong. He was ranked worse. Okay, I'm a complete idiot. This VOD's gonna look so stupid for me, but okay. I was wrong. I was spreading misleading info in that clip. That's happening right now on my stream.
below that is Jank's nephew, which contains misleading info. Now, originally when
I thought initially when I read that they were ranking him more favorably because I saw less as in less misinformation, but I was wrong.
first saw this, I didn't zoom in on the chart. I didn't realize the categories. So I made a joke about how Jank's nephew went on national television on Piers Morgan's show, said that he himself is in fact a propagandist.
No, I'm not calling
I'm
you
a
that. I'm just saying. I'm going to play you.
I'm saying I am.
Okay, well then I want to
I'm
play.
saying I am.
I just
before
want to
you
put
even play it.
And then all of a sudden, he is surprised when he just
What is the literal definition of propagandist if I look that up? Just propagandist is one word. A person who promotes or publicizes a particular organization or cause. Okay, that's not really. Propagandistic means relating to, being, or characterized as propaganda. Propaganda is information that's spread to change people's opinions, often with the intention of supporting a cause or damaging an opposing cause. Propagandistic can also describe someone who creates or spreads propaganda. So okay, blah, blah, blah. This is such a nothing example. Yeah, he fights for one side. I could interpret that. I thought propaganda basically entailed like the willingness to spread misinformation at the cost of the other side because it benefits yours. I thought that was kind of what the definition was there.
discovers he's ranked as a propagandist. But honestly, fact check me on that. That is absolutely false. He is ranked below a propagandist. They're saying that he is worse than a propagandist, which is the category that he aspires to be in.
I'm curious why he's so surprised by that ranking, given like how compelling the case is from like Willie Mack's videos and even from their debate that he like is willing to spread misinformation when it benefits him. Like I'm surprised why this is like shocking to him. You would think he would almost own it and just be like, yeah, I did that. But maybe it hurt his ego.
That is pretty damn impressive.
Bro, I'm lower ranked than fucking Fox News, bro. I'm lower ranked than Joe Rogan. What is this? The first time I'm actually mentioned on the media bias chart, they put me below selective, incomplete, unfair persuasion, propaganda, or other issues, okay? And on the right, I'm under Joe Rogan. Like, Joe Rogan...
It's like when every single source available is telling you to spread misinformation and they have like proof of it and you're still unwilling to acknowledge it or like accept it. Like, what kind of person does that take, you know? Ultimately, it takes, I think, a propagandist, you know, who's willing to spread misinformation the best that they can. Because even when it's shown by this, you know, whatever organization made this with bias ranking, you know, he's like, he doesn't want to accept it.
Red Scare Podcast.
Sargon Stella Furry, thank you for letting me know.
Ben Shapiro, The Ingram Angle, Project Veritas. Project Veritas.
You know that has got to sting. You know that has got to bother Jank's nephew, because Jank's nephew goes out of his way to criticize the reporting or the analysis or the conversations that all of these people he just named has. And for him to be ranked below them, that's got to hurt. For him to not even make the propagandist category has got to really be annoying. And the funny thing about this is that Joe Rogan is not even trying to be a fact-based media reporter or anything like that. He just has a really popular podcast, has guests on that podcast.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Hasan will claim to be a fact-based media reporter and that's his goal, but through his actions, we can see that's never his goal, right? His goal is to support a certain side of the political spectrum, you know? He has a certain position he wants to take. He has an audience that likes that position, and he's willing to, you know, give whatever take based on the information he has, and even misinterpret that information intentionally to fit that worldview. That's his entire thing, right? That's why people like him, literally. That's why the people who like him, because he reaffirms their preconceived notions about the world, even when his worldview is, you know, shaped by misinterpreting the facts. I think that's part of why Hasan is kind of like so frustrating to me. Like, I don't particularly care that he's like a left-wing guy or a tanky, whatever people want to call him. I'm not really bothered by that because I'm not like a politically motivated person. The thing that bothers me more is like the phoniness, right? Somebody who purports to be journalistic, somebody who purports to be reporting the news, doing like, you know, good political commentary, and then also is like completely unwilling to analyze the world around them, you know, in a good faith way. It's very upsetting to me. Misinterpreting what exactly? Literally any piece of information. Any piece of information regarding wars, ongoing conflicts. Hasan will take that information and he will spin it the best he can to fit his worldview. And when it doesn't fit his worldview, like the evidence, let's say, he will spin it as like it's a conspiracy theory, right? There's like some conspiracy going on. Like Hasan is like the left-wing version of Alex Jones, unironically, which is very frustrating. Maybe he's not as bad as Alex Jones in terms of like misinformation, but he is, I'd say the left's most similar equivalent to that, I would say. And the benefit he has is that he's like, protected, because leftists are a protected class on Twitch, which is why they're allowed to say crazy shit all the time and get away with it.
Listens to what they say, pushes back actually a lot more than some other people who consider themselves to be legitimate media pundits. And Joe Rogan, not even trying, is above Cenk's nephew. Joe Rogan, who Cenk's nephew has made it his business to cry about consistently on his live streams, is above him. And that really annoys him. Project Veritas.
Like, if you're doubting what I'm saying, by the way, because there's like a lot to go over here. If you're doubting what I'm saying, there's some great videos by Willie Mack Show that I would highly recommend you watch. They are super informative, super comprehensive. Any videos made about Hasan tends to be good, but there is one in particular that I think was the best one. Yeah, this one, the Wrong About Everything. That one's a good one to start with if you want to watch it. And This Horrible Person When Lies and Misreporting is a good follow-up. If you just watch this video and like if you don't come away with the conclusion that Hasan is like a basically pathological liar when it comes to the facts, then you're person, frankly.
Also hilarious. I mean, come on. Does not get any worse than this.
I am the equivalent of InfoWars.
Well, actually, it could get worse than this because Cenk's nephew is in and around the same level as Alex Jones's Infowars.com. Cenk's nephew, Mr. I'm better at challenging the establishment than anyone. I'm giving you the real info from the left wing. I'm pushing my agenda, is ranked in and around the same level as InfoWars. Now, to be clear,
and the even more like frustrating thing for this in terms of like what Hasan does is like, if you want to be politically effective, obviously in like the short term, like spreading misinformation can benefit you because there's people who want to hear that misinformation, right? And like have it validate their worldview. But extremism doesn't like exist in a vacuum, right? There's certain periods of time in which extremism is very popular and in vogue, and there's certain amounts of time where it's not. And so those kinds of audiences come and go. And the audience you can rely on, if you appeal to them, is people who are more reasonable, have a less crazy worldview, and are more measured. I don't want to say centrist, but more measured, right? And so if you want to maintain like long-term popularity and appeal, like broad appeal generally, the way to do it is not by being like a brain-rotted political pundit. It's by being a political pundit who's not brain-rotted and is willing to interpret the facts faithfully and honestly. If you only pander to one kind of worldview, you're going to be stuck in that kind of worldview forever, and everybody else on the outside will hate you, including the other political extreme, right? Is this the guy from all the Skibbity videos? What's up, Destiny?
Clear. True. I'm not 100% sure based on this chart alone if Cenk's nephew ranks slightly above InfoWars or slightly below InfoWars, and that's because the difference in the logos that they use. You just have InfoWars as the text right there, which is just across even on a plane, but then you have Cenk's nephew's logo, which has his head, which is unambiguously above where InfoWars is, but his name, the name of his channel, is below InfoWars. So depending on how you look at this, depending on how you interpret this chart, it looks like he could be either above or below InfoWars, but to be 100% clear, I'm guessing because this is put out by an organization that might have their own bents, that he would be ranked slightly above. I am open to correction in the future, believe me, but for him to be arguably InfoWars level has to burn up his ego. Now,
the particularly frustrating thing about people like Alex Jones, maybe I'm getting too political here, whatever, he goes. The particularly frustrating thing about someone like Alex Jones is that one argument I've heard a lot of people make, and even an argument that I think I probably made in a video that I wiped from my channel a long time ago, for obvious reasons, I would say, even outside of the bad takes I think I had in that video. Just like that video and its topics, I think wouldn't have lasted on YouTube for a long time. But the particularly frustrating thing is this idea that like, oh, well, Alex may be called crazy by everyone, but like he was right a few times, right? He was right about, I think one big thing people say is like he predicted 9/11 or something like that, right? And like, I really hate this idea that because someone is right once, that we should excuse like everything else they've said that's wrong. Like Alex Jones had been like live on his show for years and years saying a ton of crazy shit, right? I mean, he lost a massive court case about Sandy Hook where he was literally targeting the victims of the families, or sorry, the victims of it, being the families, the parents of kids who got killed in a school shooting, saying that they were crisis actors, right? Like, that is a crazy thing to say. With like, I feel like with anyone else in that scenario, like everybody in the world would be like condemning that person, saying like, you're a idiot, right? Like, for me, as somebody who like cares about, people who report the truth, and like I've criticized so many people for making like false allegations, or even like, just carelessly making a video that spreads misinformation. That's bad. That's really bad. But with Alex Jones, like, the guy literally said a school shooting didn't happen, and like got like the parents of the victims of that shooting harassed like for years about it, right? And like refused to shut the fuck up about it on the air, right? Like, this is if anyone else did that, we would never trust them again, right? Like, CNN has misreported a bunch of stories and people are like, oh, we should never trust them again. Like, fair enough. CNN probably sucks. They've definitely covered a bunch of stories where they straight up lied, if not like omitted information, and that was like really. But with like Alex Jones, people make this exception where it's like, oh, well, he may be kind of crazy sometimes, but like he got a few things right. And it's like, if anybody else had like said what he said or did what he did, like he would never be trusted. That person would never be trusted again, right? That person would never be trusted again, ever. But like, people make this exception for him, right? And like back when I was, I think 16 years old, I made this exception for him too. I was like, oh, well, he's not a bad guy. I mean, he got some wrong, but like, he apologized for it. And it's like, with anyone else that I've commentated on YouTube, like if somebody just apologizes for spreading misinformation, does that mean I then see them as a credible source? No, obviously not. Like, this double standard, like, I think highlights a giant inconsistency with stuff. Hasan is on similar stuff. Yeah, true. Like Hasan, like I said, in that, I agree with his rating on that media bias chart or whatever, right? I agree with that, because he is just as bad in my opinion. But like, I don't like, Alex Jones is really funny. That's about the best I can say about him. He is, he does lie on his show willingly. And even if he's not lying willingly, like, even if he's not lying intentionally, the result of the misinformation is still the same as if he, did it on purpose. Him paying millions of dollars for it is crazy though. Is it though? When I react to people who like spread misinfo, a lot of people in chat will say things like, that guy should be sued into the ground, take all his money. And that's when they lie about one person. Alex Jones lied about, an entire tragedy and like all the families. Does that mean he shouldn't be sued? Is 1 billion kind of high? Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't even know how they came to that number, but like, he deserves to pay millions and millions of dollars in perpetuity, in my opinion, for lying about that. Like, there has to be a consequence. You cannot let people get off when they lie about that kind of shit, right? There has to be some kind of civil punishment, in my opinion. He didn't lie. He speculated. He openly said that Sandy Hook was faked, dude. He said the families were crisis actors. And also, once again, like, if I or any other commentary channel spread misinformation in that way, and we were like you would never say like, oh, they're speculating. You would never say, oh, that's speculation, right? You would never say that. He also said chemicals make frogs gay. Well, I think, funnily enough with that, I think he was technically right about that. I watched an Oki's Weird Stories video where he was like, Alex didn't have the proper information with that to like be able to prove it, but he was technically right in like a workaround roundabout way about that one thing, right?
There are people ranked below Cenk's nephew. There are people on both the left and the right that are beneath him according to this information.
Like, I've noticed as I've gotten older, and like my somewhat like, I don't know, I don't want to like sound too high on myself here, but I feel like since I've gotten older and like gotten more into making videos and like it's become my full-time thing, a lot of my entire like career, quote unquote, has been around like the idea of like not intentionally spreading misinformation and like, calling out those who do. Like, it really frustrates me. I find people who are like willing to lie intentionally for like personal gain. I find it super frustrating. And as I've gotten older, like the person who does it, like their political views, like regardless of who they are, has like their political leanings have like factored into that less and less. Like, no matter who it is, whether it's Hasan or Alex Jones, like the willingness to spread misinformation for personal gain is like starting to piss me off more and more. Like, I just hate it, man. I hate it. It bothers the out of me. You can like someone and disagree with their opinions and actions. Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, obviously you can, yeah. But on a personal level, on like a friendship level, yes. But as time has passed, I've grown less and less willing to give those kind of people leeway. Like, it really, really frustrates me when somebody's lying. I really hate it. It depends on what they're lying about, obviously. Like, there's like some lies that don't really matter, especially on like a personal level. But like lies in media has really started to piss me the off. I don't know what exactly it was. I mean, it's always pissed me off to an extent, but like across the board, it started to really piss me the off. I really don't like it.
And you can actually see on the right, the lowest ranked person is louder with Crowder, which is pretty bad. And honestly, I wasn't even expecting him to be there, even though Crowder does an opinion show. But Steven would argue that he's trying to do a comedy show. So he's not trying to be ranked as the most factual based or anything like that. But again, that is open to you guys for interpretation. Hey guys, editing Sean here. And if you look at this chart close enough, you'll realize that Steven Crowder is not the lowest. He's actually the second lowest on this chart. Before It's News is right beneath him. So
Am I base for using the Mr. Beast skin on Fortnite? Of course.
my apologies for that. Take everything I said about him being the lowest and apply it to second lowest. Take this whole chart with a grain of salt if you would like. But the point,
I mean, Tom, you can say you have a certain stance in videos. Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I don't think the problem is like having an opinion on something. Like, that's okay. I have opinions on things. I have opinions on things that aren't based in fact. But the problem is like when the facts you're presenting are false or you're misrepresenting things, you're lying by omission by leaving certain things out. That has really started to piss me off more with time. Having an opinion is one thing, but when your opinion is like on a specific situation is entirely informed by lies and you're propagating that to the public, that is frustrating. It is frustrating.
point is, Jank's nephew don't like it, and in response to the fact that he is ranked this low on this chart, he decides to live up to his status and throw out an unverified conspiracy theory on why he's ranked so low.
Like, this has got to be a fucking DGG guy who wrote this list, I assume.
You know, I actually thought for a second, maybe, just maybe, this clip was AI generated. Maybe, just maybe, Jank's nephew could not be that dumb when it is pointed out that he is in and around the rank of InfoWars.
Destiny did that the other night in the panel with you and Warren. He purposely misled certain things like the electoral college stuff. That's interesting. If he did that, you should like make a, I don't know, debunking document or debunking video about it to like show how he lied. I think that'd be really good. If anyone at any point in time has lied, you should like call it out with whatever like research or opinion you have. You should do that. Or I don't know, debate him or something. But yeah, you should like talk about that somewhere.
He decides to respond to that, which again, remember, he is below a propagandist on this ranking by saying an unverified conspiracy on who might have put him there. His response to being called out for spreading bad information and unverified information and misleading information was to make up a conspiracy theory on the spot. That is what Jank's nephew did.
Dog, I'm lower than Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and all of the, like, National Review, Newsmax, OAN. I'm lower than OAN.
I just don't see how this is surprising to him at all.
Bro, they're so crazy. Breitbart is here? New York Post and Breitbart are here? Okay, throw this. Come on, dog. Throw this list in the fucking trash.
I'm so curious, is all of his audience delusional and like has no idea about like the misinformation he spread? Or are they just like, once again, do they just have a preconceived notion about Hasan and the world, and therefore when they see anything that contradicts it, they're like unwilling to take it in, honestly?
What the? This is the word. This list is a
like, is it like genuine
list.
delusion?
I mean, honestly, you just gotta love this. He is talking about all the different things that he's ranked lower than, and he's devastated by this. He's like, the first time they include me in one of these bias charts, and they didn't say that I was the greatest commentator in terms of politics ever. And again, I will just point out, Jank's nephew's lowlights are legendary. This is a guy who flat out denied that Russia would invade the Ukraine. He even said it would be his Tim Pool 49 state landslide moment if that were to occur. Then it happened.
And we got a lot to talk about. I was right about Ukraine. That's right. War is not imminent. Oh,
Thank you,
shock.
Rick.
I think maybe I'll tell my editors to do this, but I think I'll just change I'll change this every day to Ukraine has still not been invaded by Russia every day. Change it to Russia still has yet to invade Ukraine. And it's like day 11 at this point. The reason why I'm saying a lot of the information that's coming out of the State Department is wrong or outright false is because what I'm showing you right now is literally people talking about like bombing Kiev. That is insane. That's psychotic.
This is a guy who raged out.
The funniest thing was when like Hasan was like going through media sources and saying how they're lying, and like people will be like, well, what are your sources? And he was like, well, I have on the ground reporting, and his on the ground reporting was like random Twitter accounts. That was so funny. Once again, like, I'm not saying you have to trust mainstream media. I don't think you necessarily should. Almost ever. I don't think you necessarily trust anyone's sources, but like to then just trust some random on Twitter who's saying something is crazy.
About a particular hospital bombing that occurred in the Gazan territory that actually was caused by an Islamic Jihad rocket malfunctioning. And he not only banned the person who said that this was actually not Israel who did this particular bombing.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Change title. IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. You piece of shit. Yes, it absolutely did.
Listen how mad he
You
is. He's so
genocidal
angry.
Scumbag. You have no.
This is his general response to any criticism, by the way, or like somebody saying he like is spreading misinformation. You're a genocidal scumbag, Zionist. You're a Nazi. You're racist. You're homophobic. Whatever.
Dignity. You do not have an ounce of dignity
It's awesome
inside
seeing
of
him
your
mad.
soul.
But then he started talking about how he knew what a JDAM was just based on hearing it, even though this guy has
This is
no
awesome. I
military
love this
experience at all whatsoever.
They do not. They do have rockets. And sometimes there are failed launches. But a failed launch on a fucking rocket is not going to be able to destroy an entire hospital. They do not have the firepower capabilities of destroying an entire hospital. So even from an immediate assessment, that is unimaginable. Okay.
It's so funny hearing Hasan say immediate assessment. Like what? In what world are you like the informed person to like interpret footage of war and determine whether or not it's real, right? Like in what world? I'm not saying you can't like try to have some kind of layman's opinion, but like to act as if you're like any kind of authority or expert on the subject is so funny. Like, dude, you're like a cringy Twitch streamer. Just be that. Why speak with such authority on a topic you know nothing about, like literally nothing about? And I also feel like, I don't know, would I be more willing to forgive it if he was younger? Honestly, not. I don't think so because I know people. But I'd say if he was doing this and he was like 18 and then he like changed and reformed over the course of the next 5 years, it would be like, okay, it's forgivable. He was brain rotted by the internet. He changed a little bit. He's not spreading that kind of shit anymore. It's like, was it bad? Yes. But if he changed his ways, at the very least you could say like, well, he did that. But like he's like 30. Like he's been the same way since he started his career. It's once again super frustrating.
I'm going to put this side by side. I want you to.
You're a cringy YouTube streamer. Yeah, I mean, that's very true. But I feel like I do a better job of trying not to speak on things that I have no authority talking about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to watch war footage and be like, that whistle is the sound of the XJ9 missile 23 designation Israeli. You know what I mean?
Understand.
So angrily and confidently incorrect. Yeah. I think it's particularly frustrating for me and a lot of other people to see someone who is like so confidently wrong. Like they're so wrong, clearly, and they're also so confident about it and unwilling to hear anyone tell them otherwise, right? It's so annoying.
And something, okay? So that is a JDAM called on.
Called on. Expert. War footage expert.
Do you think that seems similar to one another? Also, not a ballistics trajectory expert, but that JDAM came from super high up. If
Called
you
in
look at
on.
the actual confirmed video of the bombing, you know that neither of these parties
Called on.
have the capability of dropping a bomb like this on themselves, even by accident or deliberately. They do not have this capability. You have no evidence. Stop concluding. What is this? What am I looking at? What am I looking at with my own two eyes? What are you looking at? I have no evidence.
Once again, it's like, I saw a video on Twitter, therefore it is right. Like, really? This video could have been from 20 years ago from some different war in Slovakia. You wouldn't even know.
Don't believe your. What do you mean? Does that strike you as a misfire?
And when called out on that, rather than acknowledging that he got this one wrong and then trying to move on, he said, oh, well, here's a list of all the bad things that Israel has done, so we shouldn't even talk about who was right or wrong about this particular thing that I was dead wrong about. But that is not even the worst of it. This is a man who interviewed.
And that's such a frustrating thing too, right? Like justifying misinformation because you don't like the person that it's about, right? Like I really don't like that. I really don't like that. Like I feel like you have to have some more commitment to principles than that. Like just being so comfortable engaging in falsehoods because you don't like the side. So it's like a who cares thing. Like I don't like that, man. I don't like it at all. It's really is not the word for it. It's like Disgusting.
A Houthi pirate, a member of a terrorist organization who, by the way, was boarding ships that have nothing to do with the conflict, that were third-party country ships, causing all these problems, not only just in that region, but worldwide, because it ended up disrupting canal traffic right there. And I think 10% of the goods actually move through that particular canal. And Cenk's nephew decided to interview him and call him, no joke, an anime protagonist, Luffy from One Piece.
Okay, this is a stupid.
This is so funny. In fairness, I think you can interview people like this, like part of I don't know, journalism or something, whatever it is, reporting things, whatever the it is that Hasan does. Part of that, or tries to do, part of that is like interviewing controversial people and having like tough conversations with them, right? Like, I don't think it's wrong to have a conversation with like Andrew Tate. I don't think it's wrong to have a conversation with somebody who is even like a murderer, right? I don't think it's wrong to have that conversation. The problem is when you like don't critically analyze anything they say and also like endorse horrible shit they do or say, right? That's the problem. It's okay to have a conversation with that person. That's like, it's good content, and it's also like, you know, I think it's like a benefit to the public to get that kind of perspective, however bad it is. If you're going to do it in a way where you don't challenge them, I don't think you should also be agreeing with everything they say.
Stupid question. Okay, you can preface it with that. Does he know what One Piece is?
One Piece, like, is that an organization?
No, One Piece is an anime.
Oh, okay. أول
This is
شيء
fire.
بقول لك إنه ممكن هذا السؤال يكون شوي أهبل، بس بسألك تعرف شو هو One Piece؟ عمرك سمعت ب One Piece؟
أكيد يعني منذ الطفولة وأنا أشاهد ون بيس لوفي.
Is it Luffy?
Yeah, he said he's been watching it since he was a kid.
No way!
Yeah.
That's sick. Yes, that's fire.
That's fire.
That's so fire.
That's so
oh my
fire.
God.
Oh my God.
Dude, we think
Literal IRL
Luffy's
soy
Allah
face.
is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
بقول لك حسن إنه
Now, look, it's one thing to do all that stuff. It's one thing to make your stream about all this different lefty propaganda, be anti-Western in every regard, call yourself a propagandist and all that. But it's another thing to do all of that, engage in all those acts, say that you're a propagandist for your side, say that it's okay to lie in order to boost your side, and then turn around and be upset when you're ranked incredibly low behind people who at least are trying to state facts before they give their opinion. That seems to be absolute madness, and that's what makes this so funny. Alex Jones, crazy person. But if you gave him this chart, you showed him where his website was ranked, he might say, I should be ranked higher, and, you know, establishment is coming after him, or whatever he says, but he wouldn't be surprised that he was ranked there. He wouldn't be shocked that he was ranked there. He would understand that, of course, he would be ranked there. That is just reality. He'd start talking about how we have all the documents and all that. But again, the shock on his face, the disgust on his face.
That's the thing about the shock, though. Like, I'm perplexed by the shock. Is he genuinely shocked? As in, like, what? I spread misinformation? Or is it like a performative shock? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it a genuine hit to his ego, or is he like putting on a face for the audience? I would like to peel back the mind of that. No,
Is hilarious. And
he's
yes,
delusional, probably.
by the way, this is 100% accurate. In fact, the only thing that might be inaccurate in this particular chart is that Cenk's nephew isn't on the furthest left-right axis in terms of this particular representation. So that's like the only thing right here that I might even dispute. But yeah, you're below a propagandist. You aspire to be a propagandist and you don't even reach that. That's amazing. That is wonderful. And that is so glorious. So Cenk's nephew, from me to you, thank you so much for making me laugh this much in this particular.
All right. Well, there's Hasan malding, I guess, about reality. As is usual, Hasan has a loose goose. True, Aiden. Very true.